G'day everyone! So recently we discussed an awesome Korean Transformers-like show called Metal Cardbot, and I figured that while we wait for the rest of the second season to come out, I would share with you another show that I love just as dearly. So without further ado, let's talk about an underrated Chinese show called Machine Change League. So, 机变英盟, or the rough translation of Machine Change League, is a surprisingly well-animated interpretation of Transformers, made by Shenzhen Jiaqi Media and the Guangzhou Yanshu Animation, which has a rather cool story and characters that I absolutely loved. Unfortunately, you may struggle with watching this show, as there are no English translations and most of its contents were stripped from YouTube until recently. Also, apologies for anything I mispronounce or misinterpret, as I don't speak the language and have had a lot of help from Google Translate. But before I go off track, let's discuss what this show is about. So, a long time ago, there was a race of robots that lived in Unity. However, over the years, the resources that kept their species alive started to dwindle, and thus the race was split into two, the Light League and the Shadow League, each fighting to claim resources for their own survival. However, it is discovered that an unlimited source of energy may be on Earth, and the two sides clash once more on a new battlefield. Now I know, this sounds exactly like a Transformers knockoff, but wait until I actually get into the story and you'll see that this interpretation delves much deeper than you would expect. But first, let's briefly talk about the main cast of the first season one by one. First is the leader of the Scout Patrol for the Light League, Shi Fengyan. He is a young leader that is always ready to jump into danger, putting the lives of others first and believes that everyone deserves a second chance. However, this empathy is quite relevant to his past, which we will soon see explored throughout this series.
好了，该把我的兄弟还给我了。
Next is Badatong, who is a tactical and explosives expert. He is a veteran warrior who always remains calm, acting as the brains of the team, while suppressing his enemies' movements with his impressive firepower and shield. However, he does tend to butt heads with Chetapal, a dinosaur with a tank alt mode who is not exactly the brightest. But what he lacks in brains, he brings in power with his massive cannon. He is always looking to do the right thing by his captain, but can often be quite stubborn once his mind is set. Now, from the Shadow League, we have the leader of the renegade crew, Yi Zhanfeng, who wishes to claim the infinite fire for himself so that he can become the strongest bot in the universe. He is a fierce warrior wielding a scythe and two arm blades, capable of dealing with any Light Leaguer foolish enough to stand in his way. But beneath that fierce exterior is a very complex bot that we will soon see evolve throughout the show.
车大炮，小心！你还是关心一下自己吧。
Under his command is his right-hand man Zhao Zhangdao, who is a witty ninja bot who loves to surprise his targets but is often overwhelmed by his own clumsiness. He is essentially the Waspinator of this series. Also with them is the muscle, Wu Zhandao, who transforms into a steamroller with the ability to manipulate the earth around him by slamming his pistons into the ground. He often clashes with other members of the crew, but that may be because of the secret he hides. Now, there are many other characters that are introduced throughout, but we'll get to them as they appear throughout the show. So with the stage set, sit back, relax, and allow me to tell the story of Season 1 of Machine Change League. And in case you haven't realised it yet, there are going to be some major spoilers ahead because, as you can see, I'm going to talk about pretty much all the story. So, we begin with Baratong and Cheddar Pal fleeing with a stolen disc that holds the location of a device called the Soulfire, which happens to be on none other than Earth. This device is incredibly important to both the Light and Shadow Leagues as it holds the key to obtaining the infinite fire and allowing that side power beyond their imagination. Okay, so with their captain Shifeng Yen, the trio begin making arrangements to head to Earth, contacting their home that they will finally be able to retrieve the energy that could win them the war. Unfortunately, their travel is stopped short, as none other than Yi Zhan Feng was able to intercept their call before it ever reached their home. Engaging the Shadow Leaguers, Shifeng Yen is left no choice but to force his team into the escape pod as he pilots their ship on a one-way collision course with these pirates. Buying enough time for Baratong and Cheddar Pal to safely reach Earth. Okay, so the start basically parallels the G1 Transformers sort of story, but I promise it curves away from it real soon. Upon landing on Earth, the pair reawaken to see a tiny bot called 117, who after fearing the strange giants, leads them to their abandoned town, explaining that the humans had left the Earth long ago, leaving them behind to maintain the Earth in their absence. Gee, this sounds just like WALL-E. They learned that the humans were also in search of the infinite fire, and had created a device to help them in this search, which they took with them when they fled the planet. However, the factory that it was created in was still operable, which 117 states that he can take them to. Unfortunately, Yi Zhan Feng is able to track down the remaining Light Leaguers, landing in the town and proceeding to shoot down each of the 117 bots in an attempt to taunt his prey. When that doesn't work, he reveals a gift. The sword of the fallen Shifeng Yen, telling them how sad it is that he died saving cowards. Now you know that's going to piss someone off, which it does as Cheddar Pal bursts out and a fight commences between the two sides. Baratong even wields his fallen captain's sword, but to no avail, forcing the two bots to retreat. In hiding, the pair bicker as to what to do next. However, Cheddar Pal wants to search for their missing captain, believing that he is still alive, guilting the others to join him so he doesn't get himself killed, although maybe 117 wouldn't mind that. Making it to their ship, they intend to steal it to search for Shifeng Yen, but discover that it was all a trap set to lure them out, and are quickly overwhelmed by the 2-on-3. Until suddenly the ship explodes, revealing Shifeng Yen, who had snuck aboard just before he crashed his ship. What's interesting to note here is that Zhao Zhangdao is confused as to how their Light Leaguer energy detector didn't go off when he first boarded their ship.
我们的飞船报警系统不可能探测不到你身上的光芒能量啊！
哼，也许你的系统该升级一下了吧。
But for now, let's place it on this board to remind us about this detail later. Realizing that both parties are now stranded on this planet, they agree to a temporary truce to conserve their energies. But we all know that won't last long. With the band all back together again, 117 tells them that in order to reactivate the Soulfire left on Earth, they must acquire 4 key components that the humans hid in order to prevent others from using its power. These being the Immortal Furnace Heart, the Mithril Freeze Core, the Dragon Moss Oil, and lastly the overclocked magnet wheel. Each of these components were heavily guarded with traps left by humans, until all are eventually retrieved thanks to 117's guidance. Throughout this journey, we are slowly being drip-fed what happened to Earth prior to their arrival. As with each part being found, we learn that humans were being irresponsible with their resources and bleeding the Earth dry. To be honest, no surprise there. However, once all the parts are finally retrieved by Shifeng Yen, does he actually ask 117 why he hasn't done this himself, since he is just as interested in obtaining the Soulfire as the Leaguers are. He explains that their drone bodies were not designed to handle the human trials, and that he only wants to use the Soulfire to send a message out to their human creators to return home. Now, we are also going to add this to the board, because believe me, there is way more to this point than we know. Anyway, after saving 117 from being captured again, the band finally make their way to the factory that supposedly contains the Soulfire, noting that it is surrounded by a barren wasteland which was caused by an unknown disaster at that site. 117 explains that despite the base being abandoned, they will need to be careful as the security system is still quite active, which Chedapal triggers almost immediately, just like he has done with every other security system they have ever visited. Unfortunately for them, this means they'll have to either hack the verification system or shut it down completely, which time is of the essence as a very pissed off Yi Zhanfeng is on their tail. Inside the base, we see all sorts of vehicles demonstrating this may have been a military site, and in the centre of the room are 3 crystals that once hacked will allow the 3 Leaguers to enter the main chamber. However, to do so, their minds must be transferred into the security system to override it. Alright, now this next scene is one of my favourites, as we learn that in order to hack the security system, they must defeat twisted copies of themselves created by the software. While Badatong and Chedapal fight each other's doppelgangers, Shifeng Yen must battle a dark version of himself, who, unlike the other clones, appears to have a conscience of his own, telling him that true strength is fighting for oneself, and that a team, no matter how hard you fight for them, will always let you down.
战斗需要的是力量，同伴什么的都是多余。战斗本身就是冷酷无情的。就算你拿到心灵之火，就算你为他们做更伟大的事，又有什么用？
For some reason, this dark persona frightens him, and we see that these words, no matter how surface level they are, actually seem to cause doubt in Shifeng Yen, having to look to his team to reaffirm his belief and the trust that he places in others. And with that renewed will, is he finally able to strike through his clone, shutting the system down. Awakened and a little rattled by his clone's words, he wakes up to find that 117 has disappeared and notes a chilling energy coming from the other side of the security door. Blasting it open, they enter and find that 117 is waiting for them, and explains that now they are almost ready to revive the Soulfire. And after releasing the energy components into the room, he hands each member a piece of the security crystal to place into the designated chambers in the room. Shifeng Yen for the first time notices that something is off, and still proceeds as instructed, believing that he's simply worrying too much, and there is absolutely no way they are about to be stabbed in the back. As the crystals are placed, the door above opens, revealing a giant mechanical scorpion.
喂，117，你成功了什么鬼东西啊？这不会就是心灵之火吧？
哦，心灵之火在这儿呢。可是这和你们已经没关系了。哈哈哈哈哈。
Which 117 takes control of and attacks the group, thanking them for their help, but now are no longer needed. Well, their little smart-ass tour guide has been on his own agenda, revealing that the Soulfire they seek has been weaponized so that he and his brothers can finally take revenge on humanity for abandoning them, planning to use one of the humans' greatest weapons against them, which was the result of the Earth being devastated in the first place. Whoa, this definitely isn't the Wally I remembered it to be. Chedapal asks why they are even involved in this revenge scheme, but soon realise that by accessing the security system earlier and placing the crystals in the room, it begins to drain them of their energy so that 117 and his friends can take over their bodies before they leave Earth. With all those supposed trials and traps set by the humans being nothing else but tests to see how strong the Light Leaguers' bodies actually were. Truly a deceitful plan that I imagine would make Megatron proud. With their energy draining rapidly, they try their best to take him down. All the while, he is mocking Shifeng Yen for his misguided sense of trust and for looking after others before himself. So, despite me alluding to 117's betrayal, there are actually going to be a few more twists, so don't fall asleep yet, as this is when the show really gets good. Before 117 is able to drain all of their energy, Yi Zhanfeng, Wu Zhandao and Zhao Zhangdao literally come crashing through the ceiling, wanting payback for earlier, but quickly realise that something weird is happening here. 117 orders the Shadow Leaguers to back off, or else they'll be next. So, despite his delight in seeing Shifeng Yen in such agony, Yi Zhanfeng hates nothing more than being a pawn, and decides to form a temporary truce with the Light Leaguers. Unfortunately though, 117 has been recording all of their previous battles, and is able to predict each of their moves with ease. But during their distraction, Badatong is able to disable the energy draining system, and together they prepare to fight 117 using the one thing he has never recorded, the combined forces of the Light and Shadow Leagues.
他有我们联手的数据吗？联手？赤峰宇，你真是个有趣的家伙。
There sure is nothing quite like the power of friendship, isn't there? Together, they are able to finally destroy the war machine, leaving the Soulfire intact amongst the wreckage. Realising the building will soon collapse, Yi Zhanfeng very kindly offers Shifeng Yen to grab the Soulfire, but obviously betrays him at the last second, until he too is mysteriously shot down by none other than Wu Zhandao. Yes, that is right, we have a triple cross. Now I know, I haven't mentioned much about my favourite earthbending bot, but now we learn that all this time he has been a secret agent for the Light League, feigning his loyalty to Yi Zhanfeng and hiding his allegiance until the Soulfire was finally revealed. Confused and betrayed, Yi Zhanfeng retreats due to his damaged state, but is still petty enough to destroy all their means of escape in the process. But despite being a Light Leaguer, Wu Zhandao claims the Soulfire from Shifeng Yen, declaring that he has no right to the energy, since he is actually a secret Shadow Leaguer.
为了寻找心灵之火，付出了那么多，你居然……哼，你们都被骗了。他是影盟的人，这怎么可能？
But before he can explain any more, the base begins to collapse, causing Shifeng Yen to fall into a pit as he reveals his true red shadow colours. Okay, so now that we are halfway through the first series, I think it's time we return to the dartboard. Throughout the show, they have actually been teasing that Shifeng Yen has been a Shadow Leaguer for a while. Firstly, it explains why Zhao Zhangdao was confused as to how the ship's alarm didn't detect his light energy when he snuck aboard at the start of the series. It also explains why the clone of him actually had a conscience, as it was representing Shifeng Yen's repressed origin that he had buried deep down inside himself. Also, throughout many of the episodes when discussing the Shadow Leaguers, he has often stated that not all of them are evil, and that some are just dragged into the war because they were given no other choice for survival.
我同意，但这并不能说明所有影盟的人都是唯利是图，他们大多数只是随波逐流而已。
Which may allude as to how persistent he is to find peace between the two sides. But I think I'm getting ahead of myself again. Let's jump back into the story, which is now split between what is happening on the surface and what's happening underground. Also, quick editor's note, that board I've been using is not necessary for the next part, and definitely not because I forgot about it. Anyway, let's carry on to the next part. So, let's begin with what's happening on the surface, where everyone but Shifeng Yen has escaped. But now, Badatong and Cheddar Pao must demand answers from their new acquaintance Wu Zhandao. But who exactly is he? Well, he has been a part of a secret super soldier plan which involves sending elite light warriors to infiltrate the Shadow League by using experimental energy conversion devices that would permanently alter their blue light energy into red shadow energy, allowing for these elites to infiltrate the highest ranks without ever raising suspicion. However, it comes at a cost, as it inflicts a severe amount of pain and it reduces the user's lifespan. And quick aside, I find it a really nice detail that throughout the show, Wujan Dao has had a dark red energy like the other Shadow Leaguers, but once he reveals himself, it changes to more of an orange to subtly show his true allegiance. Now with Wujan Dao, there were 5 other super soldiers. However, 10 years ago, one mysteriously disappeared, which was coincidentally the same time that Shi Fengyan apparently first joined the Light League. So for a while now, Wujan Dao has suspected that Shi Fengyan had stolen one of these energy converters and has been using it to spy for the Shadow League. But for now, the main thing is that they must learn to get along, as Yi Zhanfeng and Zhao Zhangdao are about to meet one of the most sadistic characters in this series, Lie Guan.
烈光哟，好久不见，叶旋风。
Oh boy, Lie Guan is one of those love-to-hate sort of characters, as he has no care for others so long as it satisfies his needs to make games out of their agony. So much so that he was banished from the Shadow League, as he would often use his own teammates as prey. Also, I'd like to point out that he does the Ironhide shoot jump from the movies, which is a nice touch too. So, Lie Guan had just so happened to be in the neighbourhood when he spotted his old pal Yi Zhanfeng and wanted to play with him a little for old time's sake. That is until he is offered a truce, allowing for a new playground for his games to be played, so long as he helps them with retrieving the soul fire that is rightfully his. Having found new friends to play with, Lie Guan forces Badatong and the gang to hide in an abandoned city. It is here we learn that Lie Guan and Badatong have had quite the history, as long before his time with Shi Fengyan, Badatong was once captain of his own team, who were all wiped out by one of Lie Guan's games, even being forced to watch his best friend be executed, leaving him the sole survivor so that one day they could play another game together. Infuriated with his return, Badatong hatches a plan to take down his ship by doing what looks like a super jump all the way up to the ship. But upon reaching the ship, he is met with the most tragic character in this series, Fu Hozhan.
是你？
Badatong's best friend who was resurrected by Lie Guan as a mindless puppet and bodyguard. Someone who sacrificed himself for Badatong, only to be desecrated as Lie Guan's personal punching bag. The two friends are forced to battle until the remaining consciousness in Fu Hozhan pushes Badatong to safety.
还不懂吗？他已经没有意识了，唯一的本能就是服从我的命令。可恶！这解决他！队长，快逃！
But soon after landing, he receives a distress call from his friend, calling him to save him, as although their battle had disrupted his mind control, it won't be long before he becomes a slave again, giving him his location to find him. Clearly, this is an obvious trap, and surely Badatong knows this, but he's still going to go ahead anyway, as he really can't afford to lose any more friends today. Which, surprise, surprise, ends up getting him captured, leading to a brand new game Lie Guan wants to play called Save That Hostage. And the rules are simple. You hand over the soul fire and I don't kill Badatong. However, Wujan Dao decides that Badatong is just dead weight and that the soul fire is their top priority. Obviously, this causes a fight between Cheddar Pal and Wujan Dao, which surprisingly Cheddar Pal wins and heads to Lie Guan to rescue his friend, completely unaware that Wujan Dao had let him take a fake, buying himself time to make it to the observatory so that he can try and send a distress signal to home before anyone knows what is happening. Pissed off that someone would cheat him in his own game, Lie Guan prepares to fire on Cheddar Pal. However, the cannon crystal goes berserk, firing in all directions, allowing Cheddar Pal a chance to free his friend. But how exactly did this freak accident happen? So, despite the alliance between Lie Guan and Yi Zhanfeng, the pair have slowly been aiming to double-cross each other, as both very clearly will not share the Soulfire. So, after capturing Badatong, Zhao Zhangdao tampered with Lie Guan's ship in the hope of eliminating all the competition. So with a convenient distraction, Cheddar Pal now faces Fu Hozhan, while Badatong finally faces Lie Guan. However, both are eventually defeated, ironically placing Badatong in the exact same spot all those years ago, thinking that he was going to watch another one of his friends die. Hesitating to shoot either of his friends, he prepares himself for the worst, but as he falters, the spirit of Fu Hozhan guides his hands.
开枪吧，队长，开枪吧！这一次，你一定能保护好自己的伙伴。
Empowered with those words, he fires and fatally wounds Fu Hozhan. In doing so, freeing him from Lie Guan's control. Using the last of his energy, he saves Badatong and sacrifices himself once more for his captain.
复活将，你，谢谢你，队长。啊，
都去死吧！
复活将！
I'm going to be honest, the first time I saw this I did nearly cry. Normally I don't get emotional from these shows, but something about it really tugged at my emotions and really emphasised the very first death in this series. And yes, I do mean first, as we are going to be saying goodbye to some treasured characters soon. Around this time, Wu Zhandao arrives at the observatory, but is caught off guard by Yi Zhanfeng and Zhao Zhangdao, who had been waiting for him to arrive ever since they realised Cheddar Pal delivered them a fake soulfire. Yi Zhanfeng explains that they are quite alike. Both are willing to do anything they can to achieve absolute power, even if it means betraying their allies. Wu Zhandao objects, stating that he is only fulfilling his mission, which in the end will save countless of his light-leaguer brethren. Ultimately, he declares that he will not be handing over the soulfire, leading to a great battle in the observatory, which for a super soldier he does well to hold his own, but Yi Zhanfeng is in a league of his own. Before the final blow can be dealt, a mysterious warrior appears, saving him and declaring an end to Yi Zhanfeng's conquest. But hold on a sec, who are you? Oh right, silly me, I forgot that while all this was happening on the surface, there was a whole other story happening underground. So let's go right back to when Shi Fengyan first fell into the pit. Deep in the depths of the collapsed base, a shadow-coloured Shi Fengyan reawakes, injured but alive. But he is not alone, as he comes face to face with a heavily damaged 117, who welcomes him to their demise, as there is no escaping the recycling centre. Refusing to give up, Shi Fengyan musters all the strength he can to open the door, all the while being mocked that he should accept his fate, as no one would ever trust him again. However, he is able to break down the energy barrier, stating that so long as he has the choice to do what is right, he will never give up.
要从这里出去！
就算让你出去了，你以为那些家伙还会相信你吗？
即使是这样，我也要出去，因为这是我的选择。
117 is then further shocked that despite betraying him, Shi Fengyan still shows him kindness by offering him a chance to come with him, as he believes that everyone deserves a second chance. However, we do finally get to hear Shi Fengyan's side of the story regarding his shadow origins, as we learn that the energy converter he used was not stolen, but actually given to him by that missing super soldier Wu Zhandao mentioned. It was that soldier who was the one that saw the good in Shi Fengyan and taught him the truth of having choice by giving him a second chance at life, which explains where he learned all this self-righteousness and how the act of kindness from one warrior can so drastically impact the fate of another. Unfortunately, the identity of this soldier is never revealed, but that may also be because I could be misinterpreting bits of the language. As the pair head deeper into the facility, they find an old Light Leaguer ship with the lifeless body of its captain strung to life support, which may explain how the humans were able to create such advancements in technology in the first place, like the 117 drones and the Scorpion war machine. This is then confirmed by a memory crystal held by that captain, revealing that this is the ancient light warrior Shengguang, who we'll learn in detail a little bit later. Of course, seeing a lifeless husk, 117 decides that this will be the body that he wants to take over, because he still believes that Shifeng Yen is going to abandon him. So he sneaks off and tries to activate the ship's security system, but it unfortunately targets him instead. As he is being hunted, he pleads with Shifeng Yen for help, but quickly loses hope in him because everyone he has ever met has only cared about themselves. Which is rather ironic considering he has tried to kill Shifeng Yen twice now. Fortunately, he bursts through, apologising for the difficulty he had opening the door. As they escape, 117 hopes to lock him behind so that he can take Shengguang for himself, but is stopped before Shifeng Yen blocks a fatal blow, saving his life once again. Injured and beyond repair, he collapses, telling 117 that he, regardless of his actions, still thinks of him as a friend, and that he should leave so that he can save himself.
你真是没脑子，为了救我这种家伙受这么重的伤，值得吗？而且你不是说要去救八达通他们吗？要是在这就倒下了，还怎么救啊？
没什么值不值得，这都是我的选择。而且你既然愿意改过跟我合作，那你也是我的同伴啊。
赤风云，你
快逃吧！
With those last words, Shifeng Yen dies, just like that. A bot who has always put others before himself, who always believed that everyone has a choice and a second chance, regardless of which side they are on. Distraught after everything he had done to him, 117 decides to use his second chance to save Shifeng Yen by preparing to upload his mind into Shengguang. And with this merge of mind and body, Shengguang Shifeng Yen is born, a being composed of both light and shadow energy, gifted with Shengguang's ability of ice and teleportation. He literally could not have been given a better upgrade than this. As he is reborn, the battle above between Wu Zhandao, Zhao Zhangdao and Yi Zhanfeng has just started, and despite 117's request to just watch them fight it out, Shengguang Shifeng Yen knows that he must help Wu Zhandao so that they can finally contact their home. So now coming full circle as to who our mystery bot was, Shengguang Shifeng Yen and Yi Zhanfeng come face to face once again. As they battle, Wu Zhandao is able to contact their home, which is broadcasted across the observatory, with Shifeng Yen declaring their victory. Enraged, Yi Zhanfeng retreats, but not before stating that the real loser here is Shifeng Yen, as no Light Leaguer would accept a traitor with a hijacked body back into their ranks. Although rattled by his retort, Shifeng Yen begins to discuss finding his friends, but suddenly begins to overload, forcing him into stasis lock. As he reawakes, 117 informs him that he is not fully recovered from the mind transfer, telling him to look after himself for once so that he can check what's wrong with him, handing him the repaired memory crystal of Shengguang to look at while he waits. However, to his horror, he finds that Shengguang was the one who stole the Soulfire in the first place, and warns that the leaders of the Light League are not to be trusted. Although this may be his final message, he hopes that one day someone will continue his legacy and expose the truth of their corruption once and for all. And who better to continue that legacy than a bot who has seen both sides of the war and just wants there to be peace between them. As Shifeng Yen recovers, Badatong and Cheddar Pao are on the run from Lieguan, before being saved by Wu Zhandao, who Cheddar Pao is not too happy to see. Unfortunately, they must work together as Yi Zhanfeng and Zhao Zhangdao arrive, turning this meeting into quite the royal rumble. However, they are quickly stopped by the swift arrival of a Light League ship with a mysterious dino landing amongst the parties.
还紧急任务呢，原来就是打扫大型垃圾吧。
So, everyone, allow me to introduce Shang Qianglong, a name which I really hope I pronounce correctly.
双枪龙
He is a powerful warrior who, to be honest, is the biggest asshole here aside from Liu Guan, as he sees those below him as an inferior species. That is right, ladies and gentlemen, this here is one racist dino. There really is a first for everything. So, Shang Qianglong is able to single-handedly defeat each of the Shadow Leaguers, but as they all flee, a figure descends and obliterates Liu Guan in a single blast.
来吧，裁决的时刻到了。
A rather anticlimactic death for our resident maniac, but definitely well deserved. This figure reveals himself to be none other than the Light League's head of security, Li Daozhe, who has personally come to rescue them all. So, Li Daozhe, who funnily enough translates to lawyer, follows the rules to the letter and believes in creating an absolute order. Despite his appearance, he is extremely powerful, as he commands a team of drones that can be used for both defense and offense, as you just saw with Liu Guan. Also, he is the only Light Leaguer I know that can fly, which is pretty intimidating. So, as the Light Leaguers finally meet, they each receive praise for keeping the Soulfire safe in such a dire situation, promising them that they will help rescue Shi Fengyan, who they still believe is trapped underground. However, Wu Zhandao becomes skeptical of his boss, as he is denied finding and confirming the death of Liu Guan. Not to mention that it's weird that Li Daozhe would personally come to escort the Soulfire back home. Speaking of, Shi Fengyan is watching from afar and plans to rescue his friends, as if what Shen Guang's last message said was true, then he fears that everyone is in danger. But 117 warns him that with the combined forces of energy in his body, he will only be able to fight for 5 minutes before overloading again. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's head over to Yi Zhanfeng and Zhao Zhangdao, who are surprised at how fast the Light Leaguer's ship came with none other than Li Daozhe leading the mission. They discuss a temporary retreat when a familiar bot returns.
什么人？给我滚出来！
这声音是怎么？才没见那么一会儿，就忘了我这个好伙伴了吗？
That's right, Liu Guan is not dead after all. As it turns out, he has been working with Li Daozhe for quite some time, and was actually sent to Earth to grab the Soulfire for them in the first place. But as we all know, Liu Guan is a bit of a psycho, so he kinda got distracted when he found out that Bada Tong was among the search party. Regardless, they battle against the surviving Shadow Leaguers, as Liu Guan watches like a cheerleader in an American football movie, until the pair are eventually overwhelmed. Before they are executed though, Liu Guan wants to play one last game with Zhao Zhangdao.
小藏刀，只要你亲手宰了叶旋风，我就放你一条生路，怎么样？什么
Do note that Liu Guan says that I will let you live, so it is quite likely that if he does kill Yi Zhanfeng, Li Daozhe would likely destroy him anyway. Faced with a grim choice, he proceeds to gun down his leader, but soon reminisces on why he chose to follow him in the first place. As long ago, when he was nothing but a common thief, he had no one to turn to, as obviously he stole from everyone he ever met. Until he was recruited by Yi Zhanfeng and had then stayed loyal to him ever since, and today he was not going to break that promise. Latching on to Liu Guan, he begs his boss to run as he starts to self-destruct.
李道者，赶紧来帮忙啊！
这不是你的游戏吗？你自己玩吧。
什么？
列怪，陪我一起下地狱吧！
小脏刀！
Together, they explode, finally giving us the just death Li Guan deserved, although it sadly came at a great cost. Distraught and alone, Yi Zhanfeng can only hide from Li Daozhi, but is caught off guard when 117 finds him and asks for his help alongside Shi Fengyan as they now share a common enemy. Far away from that conflict, Wu Zhandao, who has been suspicious of Li Daozhi, sneaks out on his own but is quickly subdued by Shang Changlong. Thankfully, Shi Fengyan arrives, saving his ass once again. But this time, Wu Zhandao finally puts 2 and 2 together that this mysterious warrior has been Shi Fengyan the whole time, who he may or may not have let fall in a whole 10 episodes ago. Now this fight between Wu Zhandao, Shi Fengyan and Shang Changlong is probably my most watched, as the back and forth between these three is quite a spectacle. Especially watching Wu Zhandao and Shi Fengyan finally working together to keep the Soulfire out of harm's way. Throughout the fight, they face off against many of Shang Changlong's troops, and despite starting to overload, they are able to slay him down, and both walk off into the night with the Soulfire safe once more. Wait, Wu Zhandao, look out behind you! No! Yeah, so one ability I may have forgotten to mention is that Shang Changlong is able to transfer his consciousness between any of his dinosaur soldiers, meaning that so long as there's a functioning body around, he cannot die. Having gained Wu Zhandao's trust, he hands the Soulfire over to him, making him promise him to protect it. But of course, at this moment, Badatong and Cheddar Pow arrive, seeing a lifeless Wu Zhandao in the arms of some mysterious bot they've never met before. Using this to his advantage, Shang Changlong uses the friends against each other, with Badatong and Cheddar Pow believing that he truly is a spy, while Shi Fengyan tries to warn them that they are being deceived.
可恶！居然一直骗我们！你这影盟的混蛋！为什么？你们为什么就是不肯相信我？就因为我是影盟的吗？光芒，影盟，这难道就代表一切吗？
Shang Changlong is then able to take the Soulfire from him, but is surprisingly saved by none other than Yi Zhanfeng. Of course, him saving Shi Fengyan only reaffirms Badatong and Cheddar Pow's doubts, but if he didn't, Shi Fengyan would have been dead anyway.
117!
Although he was able to escort him back to 117, Shi Fengyan remains in stasis, seemingly trapped in some sort of emotional coma triggered by the betrayal of his friends. And if he does not wake soon, his mind will deteriorate, just like what happened to Shang Guang. Yi Zhanfeng does offer to put him out of his misery though, but thankfully 117 steps in, believing that he will wake up soon. Deep in his subconscious, we finally see what's plaguing Shi Fengyan, with it being none other than his Shadow Leaguer counterpart we saw earlier in the series. This counterpart embodies all the hate and guilt he feels towards himself, and by torturing him with the memories of his friends, he is shown that despite all the good he has done, he will forever be known as a traitor to both sides, and that his dream of light and shadow coexisting can never come true. Broken, he accepts his fate, but is stopped by 117, who has linked his mind to his own to break him out of his depression. He reminds him that everyone has a choice and that one does not do so just for the approval of others, but because it is their decision, literally throwing Shi Fengyan's own words back at him from earlier in the series.
可是我根本什么都改变不了。
没错，没有人会相信你的。
不是还有我吗？你要是连自己都不相信，那我还那么相信你，我该怎么办呢
117，
我拼命来到这里，可不是为了看窝囊废的。我认识的那个赤风云到哪去了？那个改变了我的赤风云到底去哪了？
For the first time, he is someone who truly believes in him, and with that profound strength, he unshackles himself from the shadow plaguing his mind. Having gone out on his own, Yi Feng approaches Li Daozhe's ship, determined to take back the Soulfire, battling against Shang Changlong and the remainder of his forces until Shi Fengyan returns. Finally having both bots right where he wants them, Shang Changlong transfers his mind to a dino far away, triggering an electric field where he once stood. However, he clearly forgot that Shi Fengyan can teleport, which he does, freezing him where he stands before his mind has a chance to slip into another body. A kind of anticlimactic end, but at least he is able to look down on all who approach him forever, just like he wanted. Having entered the ship, they track down Li Daozhe as they slowly depart. Having found him in the cargo bay, they fight for control of the Soulfire, who in Li Daozhe's possession will finally be able to win the war, creating a land of obedient citizens with the chosen few to lead the light into a new era. Clearly this goes against Yi Feng, who states that they are now no better than the Shadow League, and Shi Fengyan, who cannot stand a world where everyone loses their free will. With their combined skills, they are able to overwhelm the Great Dictator. However, he still has one final trick up his sleeve, revealing Shi Fengyan's friends trapped in data cleaning containment, which once filled will delete all their memories, leaving them as a mindless husk. Seeing this, Shi Fengyan immediately surrenders and forces Yi Feng to do the same. But, as it so happens, 117, who had accessed the ship's communication systems earlier, sent out a call to the Light Leaguer's home, forcing Li Daozhe's commander to stop him from terminating Buddha-Tong and the others, as they must not allow anyone to suspect any foul play. Enraged that he cannot kill them, he can still enact his anger towards his uninvited guests, forcing them out of the airlock and firing the ship's cannon upon their descent.
笨蛋，给我闪一边去！
Becoming the sole survivor, Shi Fengyan can only watch as his friends are taken into space, leaving him with the now lifeless body of an unexpected ally. As we end the first season, he sees one last shred of hope in the now repaired ship of Shengguang, piloted by 117.
你可不是这么容易就放弃的人呐！
117
So that concludes the first season of Machine Change League, which leaves us on quite the cliffhanger, with Shi Fengyan, Yi Feng and 117 being the last ones alive on Earth in a hasty alliance, as the fates of his team are now in the hands of a power-driven madman as they return to their home planet. Now, as you may have noticed, we have sadly lost about half of the characters along this journey. Fu Hozhan, Zhao Zhangdao, Lie Guan, Shang Changlong, and despite being severely injured, Wu Zhandao, as he disappears for the entirety of Season 2, which is disappointing because Wu Zhandao was one of my favourite characters. However, we do get to meet a new roster now, including bots from the Tyrannical Light League, a band of mercenary Shadow Leaguers, as well as a mysterious fembot who may be the key to unlocking the infinite fire everyone has been searching for. So, without further ado, let's jump back into the fray with Season 2. Aboard Shengguang's ship, Shi Fengyan, 117 and Yi Feng, who somehow survived the blast to the face, are trying to catch up to Li Daozhe before they reach the Light League's home, Guangmeng. Unfortunately, both ships get caught in a cosmic storm, bashing them both with meteorites as well as a mysterious pod calling for help. Despite being so close to the Soulfire and his friends, Shi Fengyan cannot ignore their call, saving them from the deadly storm, which, as we find out, they actually caused. Awake, we are introduced to Ling Yao, who some of you may recognise as this was a highly regarded Transformer-like figure a few years ago. She is quite mysterious at this point, so I won't go into detail yet, but she wants to come along with them as thanks for saving her life, as she holds a pass that will allow them to get safely in and out of Guangmeng. But how exactly is she going to sneak in a bunch of wanted criminals? Well, see for yourself.
她们是我的2位姐姐，光子和小风。
It's quite funny as Zhao Feng gets hit on by one of the dino guards, which as you can imagine would not end well. But it is quite sad to see this poor dino get his heart crushed. Anyway, having snuck into the city, they go in search of Qian Tong, who is renowned for getting any information they may need. He is a greedy little bot that is willing to sell out just about anyone for the right amount of crystals, which he immediately tries to do, but luckily Yi Zhanfeng knows a rat when he sees one. In his rage though, he accidentally opens a container with a mysterious red cube emanating with power. Having never seen something so fascinating before, he merges it with himself and becomes stronger than he has ever been before. However, this new crimson form channels his rage so much that he cannot differentiate friend from foe. After knocking some sense into him, they are surrounded by more light soldiers, but thankfully they are saved by none other than Bumblebee? No, this is Zhan He, who was a friend of Shi Fengyan's back in his early Light League days and is incredibly skilled with a pistol. Also, it's cool to know that he's left-handed, which stays consistent throughout the show, so shout out to all the left-handers out there. But one thing that you're going to want to remember about him is that he is the son of Zhan Chanli, who is the current chairman of the Light League. Having saved them all, he confronts Shi Fengyan on if he truly is a Shadow Leaguer. Shi Fengyan admits he was, but says that his beliefs have not changed since the first day they've met, and all he ever wanted to do was achieve peace, but warns him that it is his father who they should be going after, as he believes that he might be the one who sent Li Daozhe. Zhan He refuses to listen, but after being defeated, finally admits that he may be speaking the truth about his father, as he had overheard a conversation he was having with a mysterious Shadow Leaguer mercenary about obtaining the Soulfire. He asks to come along with them in the hopes that this is all one big misunderstanding, as deep down he just wants his father back, not this egomaniac vying for ultimate power. And thanks to Zhan He sneaking into his father's control room, they learn that the Soulfire is stored away in the data tower, before being discovered by Li Daozhe, who in this second season has been nerfed significantly. Absolutely furious that his son would dare tarnish their family's honour, he informs the council that the location of the Soulfire is compromised, but he can use it to his advantage to finish off Shi Fengyan once and for all. Obviously, he leaves out how he plans to do this, as they don't need to know all the details. Outside the tower, the group prepares to enter, fully aware that this may be a trap. However, Shi Fengyan tells Zhan He to stay outside in case anything happens, but most importantly, to protect him from his father. Inside, after a very warm welcome, Shi Fengyan enters the main control room alone, as it is revealed that Cheddar Pao and Butter Tong have been tasked with guarding the Soulfire. Clearly thinking he is still a traitor, the three get into a fight, refusing to believe anything he says. Therefore, to prove himself to them, Shi Fengyan destroys the Soulfire.
八大通，没事吧？赤风云，你这个家伙，我跟你拼了！八大通，为什么阻止我？让我除掉这个叛徒！
你看，
With the jig now up, Zhan Chanli locks them all in, thanking Butter Tong and Cheddar Pao, as they shall become martyrs for the sake of the Light League. Finally realising they have been had, the team hastily unite to escape, barely making it out alive. Meanwhile, Yi Zhanfeng, Ling Yao and 117 are exploring the tower to find the real Soulfire. So what happens when you put three characters together who all want the Soulfire for their own means? That's right, betrayal. Well, to be honest, we don't know Ling Yao's motives yet, but trust me, she's just as desperate as the rest. as Yi Zhanfeng tries to destroy Ling Yao, who is revived by 117, only for her to stab him in the back, revealing that she has been connected to the Soulfire the whole time and requires it to fulfill her mission. It's also interesting to note the irony of 117, who last season kept trying to betray everyone, but since being shown the error of his ways, ends up being betrayed himself. So, when Zhang Chunli notices his precious Soulfire is now gone, he goes into lockdown, which Li Daozhe uses to his advantage to capture Yi Zhanfeng and 117, who they use to lure out whoever stole the Soulfire. So at this point, Badatong and Cheddar Pal don't entirely trust Shi Fengyan, but don't have a choice considering their great leader had used them as bait. So Shi Fengyan promises them that if they find Ling Yao and look after the Soulfire, he will go and rescue Yi Zhanfeng and 117 and together stop the lockdown keeping them trapped. While Zhang Chunli is distracted, he and Li Daozhe meet face to face once again. However, despite it becoming a 2-on-1, they are quite evenly matched, until Yi Zhanfeng uses his body as a shield, allowing Shi Fengyan the chance to finally take him down.
朱旋风，赤凤云，快捡起你的剑！只有用那招，我们才可能赢。
赤心放下！
分子冻结！
Giving both bots some peace for their fallen friends Wu Zhandao and Zhao Zhangdao. As the lockdown is now lifted, Badatong and Cheddar Pal find Ling Yao and all discover that Shi Fengyan would willingly allow all three of them to escape with the Soulfire, which makes them realise how much faith he has placed in them despite all the hardships they have done to him. So, with the Soulfire still in hand, they each go back to help their friend. Having returned to the monitor room, Zhang Chunli sees his head of security as an ice sculpture, the Soulfire missing, and even worse, the lockdown has been lifted. So to say he's upset would be a severe understatement. Thankfully, Ling Yao and the team arrive, wishing to exchange the lives of her new friends for the Soulfire. However, before she can, the lights go out and the Soulfire is stolen by none other than Zhang He, who refuses to let his father take what rightfully belongs to all of the Light League. And of course, being the wonderful parent that he is, he tortures his son because, as it turns out, Zhang He had only pretended to steal the Soulfire so that his friends could all safely escape. Also, I have to mention that since Zhang Chunli's power is to literally control electricity, which in this universe is pretty OP, I do like to think of him as a beefy Darth Sidious with the whole lightning aesthetic. Having finally made it out, Shi Fengyan entrusts the Soulfire over to Badatong as promised, and prepares to go back in to save Zhang He. However, 117 steps up and tells Shi Fengyan to not be the hero for once, and he'll go back in and search for him instead, and that he expects a big reward when he returns. I know I haven't conveyed it too much, but 117's smart-ass attitude has always been a breath of fresh air amongst the calm demeanour of Shi Fengyan or Yi Zhanfeng's brooding nature, which is going to make what I say next to be quite upsetting. Deep in the tower, Zhang Chunli has restrained his son and tries to convince him that what he is trying to do will benefit all of Guangmeng, and that together they can be true heroes by eliminating all who would stand against them, demonstrating that all he cares about is reliving the old glory days and being admired for the hero he used to be. Zhang He follows up by stating that you don't have to perform some grand spectacle to be admired. Simply making choices and following what one truly believes can mean that anyone can be a hero in their own right.
我并不像你一样善于战斗，可是我会选择适合自己的道路，成为不一样的英雄。只要为光盟努力，我们每一个人都是英雄。
哼，这不过是小人物自我安慰的说法。
父亲，你已经被权力冲昏头脑了。要是你现在收手，那你还是光盟的一员。但如果你继续错下去，就再也没办法回头了。
They are really trying to emphasize the moral in this episode, as everything in this show is about making your own choices and following your own path, which is actually a really nice message. Unfortunately, his father does not agree with his sentiment, and being so blinded by power, he tortures him further and does something so unspeakable to him that even 117, who had been watching, was left speechless. He calls Shi Fengyan to warn him about what's happened to Zhang He, until a mysterious being emerges from the darkness, gunning him down. Returning to the tower, they rescue Zhang He, but doing so triggers the self-destruct, and together they must hurry to find 117, who is left damaged wandering the tower's halls. Reminiscing on how Shi Fengyan once saved his life, he decides that he must return the favour once more, guiding the group to an exit from the monitor room. They each barely escape, however 117 is already too far gone.
117，
117，
117，你干什么？
山间里的是风雨危险。
117，
117，他已经……我找到他的时候，他已经是这样了。他是为了我们才……
不，117一定还可以修好的，对吧？对吧？如果不是我，事情也不会变成这样。对不起，对不起。
羚羊不会原谅。
不，117，117。
Making this one of the saddest and most critical deaths in this series, as 117 has literally been the unexpected glue holding the team together. Going from a scheming backstabber whose sole goal was to get revenge on his human masters, to a kind-hearted smartass who has forever been changed by the compassion of Shi Fengyan. But with little time to lament, Bada Tong, Cheddar Pao and Yi Zhanfeng arrive, having stolen Li Daozhe's ship. Together, they plan to leave Guangmeng, heading toward Ling Yao's home, Lingjing, which is also the origin of the infinite fire which the soul fire has been guiding them to. On their journey there, she reveals her true intentions, as she is one of the last guardians of the soul fire, and up until recently was prepared to destroy it to prevent it from falling into the wrong hands again. However, she saw hope in Shi Fengyan, as she saw that he truly has no selfish intentions for the power it leads to. But they have not been the only ones to make this journey, as they have been secretly tailed by two of our newest Shadow Leaguers, Bai Mie and Ye Shifeng. Now who are these two? Well, Bai Mie is what you get when you combine the personalities of Zhao Zhangdao and Lie Guan, creating a childlike sociopath who loves to destroy everything he sees, especially since he has two gravity cannons which can combine into an even bigger cannon that could rip anyone apart on contact. Now our other friend here is Ye Shifeng, who is the younger brother of Yi Zhanfeng. I guess angry brooding runs in the family. He is very interesting as he shares the same strength as his brother, but can distort the temperature of his body to become temporarily invisible to the naked eye, which kind of makes sense as to how Yi Zhanfeng was able to hold his own against Shi Fengyan's teleportation. Having been tipped off about the soul fire, the pair are quick to engage, but their battle is interrupted as the stones around them begin to change, forming a maze and separating the party into three groups, with Zhang He and Ling Yao on the main path to the temple, Bada Tong and Cheddar Pao with the data disk given to them from 117, which leaves Shi Fengyan and Yi Zhanfeng alone with the soul fire to face their new threat. As they battle, Ye Shifeng tries to convince his brother to return to the Shadow League, as deep down he doesn't want to kill him, even saving him from Bai Mie. However, despite their escape, Yi Zhanfeng begins to lose control, reverting him back to his rage state from when he first absorbs the mysterious chip, forcing Shi Fengyan to quite literally have him chill out. Even though this chip is going to start becoming a bit of a problem, which, trust me, it does, it actually starts to cement a bond between the two, as for the very first time, Yi Zhanfeng starts to slowly open up to Shi Fengyan, demonstrating that his desire for power and his distrust of others has a much deeper meaning behind it. but we'll get to that shortly. Having literally seen their battle in the distance, Ye Shifeng goes out on his own, hoping that he can still convince his brother to switch sides, and warning that unlike him, Bai Mei will show no mercy. And it is adorable to see Yi Zhanfeng actually go out of his way to defend Shi Fengyan again. Their argument is quick to attract Shi Fengyan and Bai Mei's attention. But what was really cool though was watching Yi Zhanfeng mentor Shi Fengyan on how to defeat his brother by relying on not what you see, but what you hear. In the end, it is actually Ye Shifeng who defeats Bai Mei, telling his brother to leave now before he changes his mind. This is when we learn the pivotal truth behind Yi Zhanfeng's whole goal throughout the series, as long ago Yi Zhanfeng and Ye Shifeng were known as the strongest shadow warriors in history, fighting against the Light League to avenge the death of their family. However, after their first mission, Yi Zhanfeng overhears a conversation from their leader, Ao Chen-chong, revealing that he was the one that killed their parents so that they would become his loyal soldiers.
原来爸爸妈妈他们……不，凭我的力量，现在还不是时候。原来我们的父母是被傲天琼杀害的，可恨的是，我们一直被蒙在鼓里。
不可能，长老不可能！
你等着，等我拿到无限火种，就回去找你。时间已经不多了。
Being betrayed by the one bot he looked up to most, he swore to attain as much power as he could to destroy him for what he's done. Up until now, we only saw him as a ruthless tyrant, but seeing him be so vulnerable and hurt that he withheld this information to protect the last remaining member of his family, Ye Shifeng, demonstrates just how conflicted and tragic Yi Zhanfeng's story truly is. But for now, let's pivot to Zhanhe and Lingyao, who throughout their journey in the Stone Maze have grown rather close to each other. Aww. But Lingyao still can't shake the feeling that something isn't right, and that there must be some way that the Shadow League is able to keep tracking them down, even suspecting that there may be a traitor among them. However, they cannot ponder for long, as we now get to meet one of my favourite duos, Bjerfa and Yu Dunshaw. So, Bjerfa is one girl you don't want to piss off, as she is the lead marksman of the Shadow League. As Ao Chen-chong's second in command, she has quite the attitude on her, which goes well with her poison-laced projectiles. And Yu Dunshaw, who looks very similar to Transformers Combiner Wars Rook, is a powerful tank who is as cunning as he is tough. He wields two powerful shields that can absorb and reflect damage, which he can also use to throw at his enemies, basically making him a twisted Captain America. So, having been sent to the Light Leaguer's location by their mysterious benefactor, they almost overwhelm them until Lingyao demonstrates why she was chosen as the guardian of the Soulfire in the first place. Revealing that she didn't want to show the location of the temple until she knew she could trust Zhanhe, who had just saved her life prior. Now, I believe we are missing someone. That's right, Buttertong and Cheddar Pao. In the second season, these two take a significant backseat, which is kinda disappointing, but I suppose they wanted to make more room to establish characters like Lingyao and Zhanhe. Anyway, lost with the data chipper 117, the pair stumble into one of the first locals of this planet, these cat-like robots who are just adorable. That is until they get chased into a blocked-off territory with a supercomputer guarded by these... I'm just going to call them Krakens because they look like the Yu-Gi-Oh monster. Regardless, this is a bit of a filler episode where they protect the cats from the Krakens and eventually learn the truth of 117's final message. But I'll keep that a secret for the moment, as everyone finally catches up at the temple the Soulfire was guiding them to. Of course, upon arriving, Yi Zhanfeng goes AWOL and steals the Soulfire, but does tell Shi Fengyan to keep protecting those he cares about, which is touching, but still, poor Shi Fengyan. Can we please have a counter for how many times he's been betrayed at this point? I'm really curious as to how many he's at now. Anyway, arriving at the temple first, he is confronted by Bjerfa, Baimie and Ye Shifeng. But wait a second, didn't Ye Shifeng betray Baimie and the Shadow League? Well, I may have skipped over the part where Ye Shifeng was punished by having all his emotions stripped from his circuitry, turning him into the war machine they had been grooming him to be. Obviously, this enrages Yi Zhanfeng and starts to enter his blackout rage, only being stopped by Shi Fengyan, who doesn't want to see him lose himself. As this is happening, Ling Yao and Zhan He arrive at the temple's centre, where Yu Dunshuo has been waiting for them. However, Ling Yao is able to summon the strength of her sisters to take down the Juggernaut, but they are still no match for him. I do like in this fight that Ling Yao tries to outsmart him by self-destructing her replica sisters, but he is quite conniving himself, being able to absorb each of the blasts in the same order that she destroyed them. Doing all he can, Zhan He can barely hold him back while Ling Yao retrieves the Infinite Firestone. But as she does this, she is mercilessly struck down by the true traitor of their group,
战鹤，
无限火种，我终于得到你了。
Now I can finally reveal what 117 saw all that time ago. So as it happens, 117 witnessed Zhan Chanli implant the same chip Yi Zhanfeng used into Zhan He. With it, it places part of Zhan Chanli's consciousness into his body, allowing him to control multiple bots at once. Meaning that Zhan Chanli has been the one journeying with them the whole time. He's been the one revealing their location to his Shadow Leaguer buddies, and most importantly, he was the one who ultimately left 117 to die. This man is literally using his son like a goddamn Horcrux, which also means that Yi Zhanfeng will eventually become assimilated under Zhan Chanli as well. Unfortunately, Zhan He is able to escape with the Infinite Firestone, as Shi Fengyan cannot bring himself to hurt his friend, and is devastated that he is now able to use the ultimate power he desired. But Ling Yao brings hope, as what was actually stolen was only the stone used to store the infinite fire, revealing that the true power is stored within the planet Lingjing itself. Having realised the infinite firestone is empty, Zhan Chanli is not too happy, but is interrupted by Ao Qinchong, who wishes for his part of the bargain to still be upheld, as he believes that they've won. Now, I haven't mentioned much about Ao Qinchong other than he is one of the elders of the Shadow League who killed Yi Zhanfeng's family, but like Zhan Chanli, he wants the infinite fire so that he can finally have a strong body again. But how was he weakened, you may ask? Well, back during the Great War, Zhan Chanli may have pushed him into his own ship's gunfire. Of course, never forgetting what was done to him, Ao Qinchong intends to steal the infinite fire for himself. However, since there was actually no infinite fire to give, Zhan Chanli may have replaced it with the same chip used to possess Zhan He, revealing that with the Elder of the Shadow League under his command, he will finally be able to reinvigorate the war, allowing him to become the hero of his people once more. With his last moments of consciousness, Ao Qinchong is able to save Yu Dunshuo and Bjerfa, so that they may have a chance to warn the others before it's too late. On the way back to Guangmeng, we see Yi Zhanfeng actually wanting to believe in Shi Fengyan's vision for peace. After seeing what has happened to his brother, he realizes that this war must come to an end, as he can't afford to lose the last bit of family he has left. However, the chip in him is slowly driving him mad, as he starts to literally see Zhan Chanli's perspective, and knows that eventually he too will be under his control. Surprisingly being a team player for once, he tells the others his visions and plans to head to Guangmeng's headquarters to rescue Zhan He and his brother, hoping to find a way to remove the chips from both their bodies. So while the others go to infiltrate the HQ, Ling Yao and Yi Zhanfeng go to find Zhan He, using his visions to help locate him. Unfortunately, Ye Shifeng was following them, forcing him to battle his brother as he tries to shake him from Ao Qinchong's control. But realizing it is futile, they retreat with just Zhan He. Currently suppressing the chip's influence, they must hurry to Qian Tong, as he will know how to safely remove them. Expecting them to try and find Qian Tong, Zhan Chanli and Ao Qinchong plan to ambush them when they arrive. Ao Qinchong even holds him hostage, as he tells Yi Zhanfeng how much he enjoyed killing his family, demonstrating the power of his restored body thanks to Zhan Chanli. Together, the two leaders are able to take down Shi Fengyan and Yi Zhanfeng. So, using all the chip's energy, Yi Zhanfeng sacrifices himself, buying time for his new friends to escape, reminding Shi Fengyan to remember his promise to save Ye Shifeng.
结束？难道你不知道这才是最重要的吗？你错了，这世上没有任何东西比亲人、同伴还重要。正是因为心中有他们，我们才竭尽全力去寻找无限火种。同伴，可惜一切已经太迟了，快走！帮我救出叶时风！
So as the councillor made aware of Zhan Chanli's betrayal, he decides to take his little militia to Lingjing, revealing that Yi Zhanfeng had been converted before he was able to self-destruct. There, Zhan Chanli plans to construct a drill that will drain the planet's energy dry. Shi Fengyan is hot on his tail though, and brings with him Qian Tong's device that will allow them to free Ye Shifeng and Yi Zhanfeng. In addition, Biofa and Yudan Shuo have also been tracking them down, eager to free their leader from Zhan Chanli's control. However, without any means of removing the chip, they are quickly overpowered. So sadly, Yudan Shuo sacrifices himself, buying time for Biofa to escape.
照同样也挡不住重力，对不起了，长老。
不许！你有我的重力炮！
快走！别想逃！长老！
Rest in peace, Yudan Shuo, a true warrior to the end, and bye to Bai Mietu. Biofa is able to escape, but since being severely wounded, falls into the lap of Shi Fengyan, warning them of Zhan Chanli's plan before she too dies from her injuries. So the team split up, with Ling Yao and Bada Tong heading to the temple to prevent Ao Qinchong from destroying it, while the rest take care of the drill burrowing into the planet. However, they must first face the mind-controlled brothers, with Zhan He and Che Depao freeing Ye Shifeng, while Shi Fengyan allows himself to be stabbed to free Yi Zhanfeng. All together now, they confront Zhan Chanli, while Ye Shifeng goes to face Ao Qinchong so that he can finally get revenge on his parents' killer. With the odds against him, he fights hard, and in the end, uses his own body to hold Ao Qinchong down while his sword pierces them both. He tells Ling Yao to let his brother know that he has finally avenged them and is happy that he will be able to see his parents once again.
原来没有我自己活过，今天终于可以任性一次了。我告诉哥哥，能够去见爸妈，我很开心，很开心。
Which is really sad, as all Yi Zhanfeng wanted was to keep his brother safe, but now, for the first time, he is able to make his own decisions, although it ultimately cost him his life. But Ao Chin Chong, refusing to lose, uses their own exploding bodies to destroy the temple. With the temple's destruction, the drill collector activates and starts to draw the infinite fire from the planet. As they battle Zhang Chanli, Zhang He and Che Depao are caught in a black hole caused by the destructive energy of the planet, and with Yi Zhanfeng tanking a fatal blow, Shi Fengyan is now all that remains between peace and universal domination. Drawing all his strength, he is able to save his friends and stands up against the tyrant one last time, using the last bit of strength to send them both hurtling into a black hole. But at the last moment, Zhang He arrives, grabbing hold of them both, but is unable to pull them out. It is quite interesting to watch the dichotomy of Shi Fengyan and Zhang Chanli in this moment, as Shi Fengyan tells Zhang He to let go so he doesn't get pulled in, while his father begs him for his help, even preparing to shoot Shi Fengyan to stop his son from hesitating, which ultimately costs him his life as Zhang He lets go. The infinite fire now complete, they must now flee the dying planet, with Ling Yao recanting Ye Shifeng's final words to his brother, who is left speechless as after everything he has done, he still could not save him. With the planet destroyed and many friends now wounded or dead, all hope seems lost, until the infinite fire reveals a new planet with the potential of life, being none other than Earth, with a single plant emerging from the town the group first visited. With this last bit of hope they depart, wishing to create a world where one day Shi Fengyan's dream of peace will finally come true. And that is the end of Machine Change League, a show about trust, choice, and blurring the lines on what is truly good or evil. As you can tell, I really enjoyed this show, as despite the language barrier, it really invests you into characters like Shi Fengyan, 117 and Yi Zhanfeng, guiding you through each of their journeys and displaying their flaws as well as their will to never give up, even if it did cost some of them their lives. Also, I really like how unique they made each character, allowing each one to be memorable in their own way. However, my favourite character, as you're probably aware, is Wu Zhandao, with a close second being Yu Danshuo and Shi Fengyan. What really attached me to his character is the sudden switch up revealing him to be a light leaguer, as all we saw was this powerful warrior who constantly sucked up to Yi Zhanfeng. But once the Soulfire was revealed, we got to see his true stoic nature. Yes, he may be solely fixated on his mission, but we see that he does actually care about others, and is surprisingly the first to sense his own commander's betrayal. So seeing him get shot and then disappear for the entirety of Season 2, despite not officially being dead, did make me a bit sad. But as I mentioned earlier, it's likely they just had too many characters to focus on in that second season. So with all that gushing out of the way, you may be asking if there's a Season 3. Well, yes and no. So about 5 years ago they teased a trailer which was going to continue the story but much further into the future than the series left off, as it left many questions as to how Ye Shifeng was still alive. Unfortunately, the show was pulled from production and left dormant for a few years, until a new trailer dropped at the beginning of this year, revamping the old trailer and showing some new content. But you probably can't see it unless you're on Bilibili, because otherwise I would get slapped with a bunch of these again. Regardless, the new season is meant to drop sometime this year, which is very exciting, and hopefully this video comes out before then. So I hope you all enjoyed this very long video. As you can see, I'm very passionate about this show, and even have Buy Me a Bierfa and Yu Danshuo figures too. But if you are interested in watching it with subtitles, I'll leave a link to a few people who have thankfully translated it for us all. Now, without further ado, I'm going back to working on my other favourite series, Metal Cardbot S. So until next time, bye bye.